This is the Tech Arts Podcast, where we talk about tech, leadership, and all things that concern church audio, video, and lighting.
Welcome to the Tech Arts Podcast, episode 10. My name is DL. So glad you could join us today as we talk to Graeme Spencer from Media Mentoring. It's all about training your team. But before we get into that, let's talk free stuff. Everyone wants free stuff, and you can up your chance of getting free microphones and tech tools by following us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find all of our social handles at audiovideolighting.com. That's audiovideolighting.com. Oh, and if you have not signed up for the newsletter, make sure you do that today by texting the letters AVL to 22828. Resources, free stuff, and knowledge that will help you be a better tech, all right in your inbox. Text AVL to 22828. Now, before we start talking to Graeme, let's hear a word from our sponsors. Our main sponsor is Digital Great Commission Ministries. Whether you need help building a team, finding the right gear, or just better understanding the church tech world, DGCM is here for you. Because they are a 501c3 donor-sponsored organization, they come to your church for free and do an assessment of your tech, visitor engagement, and your online streaming. They also offer essential classes that will help every member of your tech team. Oh, don't forget this. Most of what DGCM offers is free, but one paid service they provide is what DGCM calls technical support. You secure access to over 300 training videos. You also get tech support by getting the ability to have Zoom meetings with industry professionals, access to engineers that can help you with your AVL issues, and much more. You get all of this for only $99 a month. To find out more about the $99 a month plan, send an email to information@digitalgreatcommission.org. That's information@digitalgreatcommission.org. Or you can go to audiovideolighting.com. The bottom line is this: DGCM is all about helping churches understand how to use the instrument of technical gear to reach their congregations. You have to check out all of DGCM's resources, training, and consulting options. You do that by going to audiovideolighting.com. Contact Digital Great Commission Ministries today by going to audiovideolighting.com. Hey, did you know I'll be teaching a class on copyrights in streaming at this year's CFX conference in Dallas? That's right. If you want to have some more Q&A time and talk specifically about copyrights, streaming, and how that works with your church, all you have to do is go to churchfacilitiesexpo.com and sign up today. It's located right here in Dallas. It's really easy to get here from anywhere in the U.S. or the world. So go to churchfacilitiesexpo.com, sign up today, come see my class on copyrights and streaming. I can't wait to see you there. Okay, let's talk today's podcast. I recently had the privilege of being the guest host on the CFX Connections podcast. They gave me permission to re-air that episode on this podcast, the Tech Arts Podcast. So yes, this is a podcast inside of a podcast. But the reason why I wanted to air it is because the content was so good. We talked about church training for our volunteers and staff with Graeme Spencer. This is a very important topic that a lot of churches just don't understand. So this podcast is very important to listen to. Let's jump into it right now. Today, we are going to be talking about the importance of training in order to have good tech in your church with Graeme Spencer. Graeme is a pioneer in Christian media with over 25 years of experience. With a particular skill set in live television, he has produced and directed some of the largest Christian events over the past 2 decades. Before founding Media Mentoring, Graeme was the Chief Operating Officer of God TV. Wow. It is an honor to welcome Graeme to the podcast. Welcome, Graeme.
It's great to be with you, David, as well. So, and those that are listening to me will know that from my accent, I am not a Native American. I'm actually British. So, but it's a joy to be with you today.
Yeah, I heard the accent. So are you, where are you at right now?
So I actually live in Perth in Scotland, a little town about 30 miles north of Edinburgh. I'm not from Scotland originally. My background is from England, but my wife and I relocated back here to the UK around 2 years ago now. We were before that living in Northern California for the previous 8 years, so we've got around a little bit, but enjoying the beautiful nation that is Scotland and the scenic area here near where we live as well. It's a spectacular part of the world. So, like you, have lots of experience of travel internationally, nationally, and really excited to dive into this subject with you today.
Yeah, I got to know before we get into the subject, though, that intro said you directed some of the largest Christian events. You got to tell me, what was one of those events? I got to know.
So, well, one of the ones that's memorable for me was called the Global Day of Prayer, which in 2008, we broadcast this. It was basically 18 hours of live television. We hosted it from a studio in Jerusalem. We had another location in Jerusalem as well that had 3,000 people gathered from the nations praying. It was a call. I don't know whether you were aware of the call with Lou Engle and those guys as well, but we hosted a call in the International Convention Center in Jerusalem, and we hosted that there. We had another studio as well in Jerusalem that we were doing interviews with, and then we had 11 different national prayer gatherings that were fed into our studio that day as well, from as diverse places as Singapore and New Zealand and South Africa, the USA, the UK. So it was a very interesting production to be a part of. I produced it and directed it, and it was an amazing chance to literally connect the world in prayer on that day, focused on praying for the needs of the global church, and specifically the needs of Israel and the people in Israel at that time. So that was one of my kind of more memorable moments.
That's amazing. And it sounded like it took a lot of people to put that together. So your experiences, I'm sure, have given you a ton of insights on training. So let me get right into it. I got a question for you. I got some questions that I need answers to. So check this out. We all know that tech in churches has grown exponentially over the last 15 years. I'm sure you've seen that as well. Churches now have more AVL equipment than ever before. So I got to ask you, Graeme, why is training so vital for church techs?
I think the first thing that I would say on that is where I come from in terms of the importance of technology for what we do in terms of Christian media, church media, whatever that is. Technology is always secondary to the people that use the technology. My experience and my background, I've done live broadcasts with low-key technology, but high-key people. And I've always experienced the benefits of using people that understand technology, that can get the most out of technology, rather than the focus on the latest, greatest technology. So that's why I'm passionate about training, because for me, it's actually the people that make the tech work that is by far and away the most important aspect of anything that we do when it comes to media, when it comes to technology, when it comes to broadcasting, whatever it is in terms of kind of church tech. It is the people and their skill set that is the most important thing to focus on, rather than the quality of the tech itself.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, there's this rush to 4K, to 8K, to all of the latest, greatest technology. And while that's important, the people I've seen some HD broadcasts that blow away 4K broadcasts because of the angles and the people that are actually operating it. So I completely agree with you on that point. It's all about the people, right?
Absolutely. The skill sets of the people, their attitudes as well. It's not just skill sets. And I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit more as well. But the passion that they carry, the creativity that they bring, all of that. I mean, I probably like you, I have seen people using high-end equipment and producing far less impactful media than people using even an iPhone. I mean, the quality of content is not dependent anymore on the technology. The quality of the content, first and foremost, comes out of the skill of the people that are using that technology.
Well, that brings me to my next question. So, in your experience, what are the biggest challenges you've seen when helping churches find tech training?
I think one of that is the appropriateness of the training and the level that people are at. There's no point in coming in and training a church in high-end cinematography if you have people that barely understand how to even use a video camera. So the first thing is working out what's appropriate training for the level of the people, and it's incremental improvements rather than coming in and you're training people in something that they'll never be able to grasp. It's bringing in that level of training that is where they're at right now, that will move them to the next level, then move them to the level above that, and then leave them, ultimately to kind of where you want to take them. But it's partly is identifying the people and the needs that they have, I think, is fundamentally the most important thing when it comes to building any kind of training resources. And that's one of the reasons that I feel that this discussion is so important, because you're not going to become Steven Spielberg overnight. You're not going to become some of the high end. You've got to move up that ladder, but finding your way onto that ladder and then being able to progress up that ladder is vitally important.
Yeah, I mean, some churches have volunteers, and that's all they have. Some churches have volunteers and staff. Some churches are heavily staffed. So I completely agree with you. I mean, you have to kind of assess the church and what their experience level is. What are some of the things you do to make that assessment, to kind of understand the skill level of the people before you come in and train and work with them?
I mean, a lot of it really is conversational. It's trying to understand, but also it's not even just the skill level of the people, but it's also understanding the vision of the church and the mission of the church and what they want to actually see and achieve as well. It's who is their audience, where are they going, who do they want to speak to, because then you can tailor training that's right for the vision and mission that they have. Again, it's like, there's no point training people to be high-end, cinematographers if their vision is to actually do more stuff through social media and, things like platforms like TikTok and Instagram and that kind of thing. It's the appropriateness of where they're at and where they want to go to. And I think, that's what I'm passionate about, is helping people progress, rather than overwhelming people with too much information that is completely useless to many of them for where they're at. And I think the other thing as well that I would say on that is really important is that you want to make sure that you're training people to the level that they can achieve as well. And you do that not only by information imparting, but giving them the opportunity to do things as well. It's through the actual what would you say, the putting the training into the real world scenarios that they live and work in, that they'll be able to benefit the most. Rather than giving information, it's giving opportunities for actually hands-on use of the skills that you're teaching people.
Yeah, that makes That is really, really good information. I hope everybody heard what you just said. You can't come in and teach like they're Steven Spielberg. You have to understand their level, where they're at, what the mission of the church is, and you have to align all of those things into one piece that then takes them to the next step and to the next level. So with that said, what are some success stories you've seen when churches found good training opportunities? So like they didn't know what they were doing, they got training. What success stories have you seen that have come from that?
Absolutely. So I've got a couple of stories that I can share on that. One is a church here in England that we've been working with, who, again, and I think you have to understand a little bit. Let me paint a picture a little bit for the way that kind of church media is. This is a generalization, but here in the UK, it's nowhere near as advanced as it probably is in the US. You mentioned earlier about, you've got churches that, have a mix of volunteers and staff, and some that are fully staffed. I know churches over there that bring in freelance, people for running their church services and all of these kind of things. Over here in the UK, it's very different. If you find anyone here in the UK that actually has a full-time church tech position, that's very rare. There aren't many churches that can afford the level of skill that most churches in the US probably have on staff. So a lot of people over here are volunteers, and a lot of people are learning as they go volunteers as well. They're people that have a passion for it, but they don't maybe have a skill set in it. Now, there are other churches over here that have their volunteers are well skilled in certain areas and they're passionate about it. But then maybe you've got IT people running the AV departments, for example, because they're passionate about technology, but their skill set is more IT based. Or I know that there are video engineers that are running full-scale productions, but they're not creative people. So their background is the kind of the technology and the engineering side of things. So you've got this really eclectic mix of skill sets and things over here in the UK. So we came alongside a church here in England about a year ago who had started broadcasting during COVID. They'd actually had a setup before COVID, and then they'd started this kind of bought in a number of 5 PTZ cameras and set them up in the church, and worked with an installer to do all of that. Or I think, what do you call integrator to do all of that? I think you call them over there.
We're integrator.
You're integrators. But really, the people that had done the job had basically put the system in, showed them how to use it, and then walked away. And the person who was responsible for this, he was actually very, very new to the church, hadn't been there long, and was completely overwhelmed by, what do I do with this system? I can barely even understand what the technology is, let alone how to use it. So we were able to come alongside them and really help them progress in terms of training him and a couple of other people that were involved with that, to actually get the most out of the technology that they had. But it was based on not just, all right, this is how you use the cameras, but again, it comes back to, tell me what you want to do. What's your vision? What's your mission? What are you trying to accomplish with the technology that you've got? And then helping them to use that technology most appropriately, understanding things like framing of images, intercutting video, all of the basic things that most people with a background would know that, but they had no grasp of it. So we really had to come in very low and bring in that kind of base level of training and progress them through a process that was actually able to get them up and running and maximizing what they had in terms of the technology in the church. Also involved in terms of relighting the auditorium and making it work better for kind of live streaming and all of those kind of things. So it was kind of a complete makeover from where they were to where they wanted to go. And we just walked that through with them on a weekly basis, having calls with them regularly and going through and, kind of looking at what they were producing and then giving them helpful hints as to how to improve it. As I said earlier, it's all about getting hands-on and doing the job and then improving it. So, that was one story.
Yeah, one thing I think that gets missed a lot of times by churches, especially when they're receiving training or they're looking for training, is mistakes. I think a lot of churches and some pastors think that everything has to be perfect. And so some of the success stories that I've seen are churches that realize, hey, mistakes are going to happen. It's not the mistake, but it's how you learn from the mistake. How do you incorporate churches that come to you and say, we're just messing up all the time? What do we do? How do you incorporate that into your training in a way that helps them understand, yeah, you're going to mess up, but it's how you respond to that mistake and how you move forward and learn from it? How do you incorporate that into some of the training that you do?
I think partly it's telling them stories of how I've screwed up over the, kind of the years.
how we've all screwed up. Yeah,
exactly. I think, the more you can take the pressure off of people that feel that they've got to perform at a certain level when there's no chance of that, and it's being able to kind of demystify some of that and take the pressure off and allow people the chance to understand that it's actually, as you said earlier, and I think it's a really, really good point that you made there, it's through the mistakes that you learn. You understand, oh, that went wrong, I won't do that again. And, so that's, mistakes are always going to come up, but it's using that as again, and I think, the more you can take the pressure off of people, that it's like, it's okay to make a mistake. There are no problems around mistakes. The problem is when you then use that mistake and you're like, well, I don't want to, it's kind of, I'm going to run away, or I'm going to, it's kind of like, I'm a failure, and you use it to define you. It's like, so that's why I think, part of our role in terms of mentoring and helping and coaching churches and techs is to really allow them to understand that, yeah, they're going to screw up, they're going to fail. We've done that. That's how we've learned as well.
Yeah, I mean, mistakes are a part of life. It's learning from them that is the most important piece of the mistake. And if you're not learning from them, then we have a problem. But if you're learning from them, then things are moving forward and progressing and you're getting better. And that's a part of life. That's a part of tech. It's a part of everything that we do. So I got a question for you. And this one we may go back and forth on because, a couple of times you've mentioned it's a little bit different over there across the pond than it is over here in the States. But what are some resources that are available for church tech training? Can you share some of those?
There isn't a huge amount that's been done over here, on a kind of a thought through scale, if you know what I mean. So what I've found is there are a number of organizations over here that have started, kind of Facebook groups and that kind of thing that you can go along to. I mean, I know you've got them over there in the US as well. But so there are some forums, but they're small. I mean, we've got maybe 2,000 people in our kind of Facebook groups, where you've got maybe 50, 60,000 over there. But they're still really, really useful places to get questions answered, or get problems dealt with, but it's more specific to an issue rather than generalized training. The challenge with all of that, and you probably see this a lot, I certainly do in these groups, is that you end up with a lot of people jumping in and giving their opinions and expertise that actually don't have a lot of expertise. It's very much, it's kind of like, and you kind of cringe a little bit and say, that's actually not a really good answer for people. Now there's a fabulous organization over here. It's only been going a couple of years. It's called the Church Sound Summit that they've started. It's a really fantastic little thing, but it mainly focuses on sound. They started it pre-COVID, and it was really to do much more about kind of live sound. Last couple of years, they've got more into kind of recorded sound and broadcast sound and that kind of thing. But that's a really good resource that started. It's like a 2-3 day conference that they do over here. This year, we're talking to them about adding on some kind of video and production training and things as well. But the other thing that I'm particularly trying to do over here in the UK is get to some of the church networks and say, how can we help you, your churches? How can we train you? What can we do to assist you? And then also working with some of the integrators and installers that I gave you the story earlier of this church that we work with, where the installer put all of the gear in and then walked away after telling them how to use it. But it's working with some of those installers about, all right, how can we maybe help you to not just give people training on the equipment, but give them training on production and how they use the equipment and how they can get good production value out of the kind of resources that you've got. But tell me a little bit about some of the things that you guys have got going on over there in terms of resources.
Yeah, over here in the States, it's a little bit different. Everybody wants to do rock and roll professional church. I mean, everybody is consulting. Everybody is trying to help churches. I agree with you on the Facebook stuff. I see it, and a lot of times is I call it drive-by advice. It just sometimes makes you cringe, but a lot of times you'll see some good advice come out of it as well. So it's kind of hit and miss with that. But over here, I mean, we have organizations like MXU, Philo. Of course, part of what I do is a resource to help churches. But I think what's great about CFX, I think that's probably one of the ultimate resources, is the expo that they do and the things that they put on online, like this podcast and other things, are very helpful to churches to kind of, I don't know what's the word, curate, kind of pull it all together so you can kind of find the different things that you need for your church. And so that website, churchfacilitiesexpo.com, don't forget it. It's where you can go to this, not only this conference, but find resources that'll help you. I think CFX does an excellent job of kind of putting it all together. But there's a ton of resources here in the States. It's just trying to find the ones that help your specific need for your church and your people and what you're trying to do. What, like you said earlier, the mission of your church. What resource is going to help the mission of your church move forward? So anyway, Graeme, it has been amazing being with you today. There's some valuable wisdom that you have shared with us. If anyone would like to connect with you further about any of this, what's the best way they can reach you?
The best way is through my website, which is mediamentoring.net. I know there'll be a link in the show notes to that as well. And, you can kind of find out more about who we are, what we do, and some of the things we're developing through the website there. I also have, talking about training and kind of equipping people as well. I've got an ebook that I've published, which is only a short kind of 30 page thing, but it's really aimed at people that are doing media but want to do it better. So again, you can get that through the website. There's a special link that we can put for that as well. I really want to encourage people, though, just to, if you've got questions, reach out to me, connect with me. I'd love to talk some more. I'm on, kind of the usual social platforms as well, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, those kind of things as well. But, I'm here. My passion is to resource churches to do media better. And, I know that's your passion as well, David, as well. So, and that comes not from buying more stuff, but that comes from investing in the people that are going to use that stuff. So that's why this podcast, I think, is so important, because it's training and equipping people is the most important thing that we can do.
Well, Graeme, I know you and I have talked in the past. I think you are a valuable asset to churches. And that website, again, make sure I get it right. It's mediamentoring.net. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Make sure you guys go there, check Graeme out, all of his resources, his ebook. He's an amazing person and has an amazing passion to help churches. I think I said amazing 15 million times there, but amazing is a great word to describe Graeme and everything that he's doing. So I want to thank everyone who listened to our podcast today. Please make sure to share this on your social media channels and with other church ministry teams who might find this helpful. Wow, what a powerful episode. Yes, Be sure to share this with everyone that you know. So much good stuff inside that podcast. So don't forget the website that Graeme gave us, mediamentoring.net. If you are doing media and you want to do it better, be sure to go to mediamentoring.net. That statement from Graeme, the one where he said that doing media better comes from not buying more stuff, but investing in the people that are going to use that stuff. Oh my, that should be our everyday motto. Training and equipping, the most important thing you do. Very, very true. As techs or leaders, we should always remember that. Training and equipping. So glad you joined us today. I cannot wait to talk to you on the next Tech Arts podcast. I'm David Leuschner, signing off by wishing you a great day and praying God blesses every moment of your week. See you soon.
You have been listening to the Tech Arts Podcast, presented by Digital Great Commission Ministries. DGCM is a 501c3 nonprofit that was started to help churches with all things technical. Whether you need help building a team, finding the right gear, or just a better understanding of the church tech world, DGCM is here for you. Find out more about our free on-site visits, reports, and consulting by going to audiovideolighting.com. Digital Great Commission Ministries will help you run your church service like a pro. Find out more at audiovideolighting.com.